Welcome, everybody, to another special mega meeting and podcast and program with the Peace Week for the Rosalind and Jimmy Carter School of Peace and Conflict Resolution. We're so honored to be part of this collaboration. We're so honored that OSWEM Asiri has been joining with us and getting these announcements out to a huge number of people in the mega meeting list. And it's so wonderful to be doing a collaboration with such a worldwide organization as Rotary, and the film is so fitting for that. The movie you're going to see is called "The World Is My Country," and it's a movie. Melanie Bennett, the producer, and I were so honored that we got to know an amazing person, Garry Davis, through his life, and we're able to by any way we could make sure that we could make this movie. We knew his story was so important to tell the world. We'll have time in the question period to talk more about that, questions about David or the movie or world passports or any of these issues. We will be having David Gallup coming on, who carries on the work that Garry Davis did from the World Service Authority office there in Washington, D.C., pretty near the Carter School. And we'll also be having Marie Clark coming on to make some comments about the film. So without further ado, I think we're going to start this meeting by honoring a very, very special person, President Jimmy Carter. He's the reason that's what the school is named after. It's because he made such an incredible contribution to peace as a peacemaker. And he did a phenomenal thing during his farewell address. We'll let you see what he did, something no other president has ever done. So without further ado, we'll start with him, and then we'll go right into our Rotary International President, Stephanie Urshik, who we are so pleased has been able to give us at least an introduction to this movie. She won't be on for the whole program with a Q&A, but she is giving us this introduction. So let's roll with it. Go ahead.
For a few minutes now, I want to lay aside my role as leader of one nation and speak to you as a fellow citizen of the world about three issues, three difficult issues: the threat of nuclear destruction, our stewardship of the physical resources of our planet, and the preeminence of the basic rights of human beings. The great majority of the world's people cannot remember a time when the nuclear shadow did not hang over the earth. Our minds have adjusted to it, as after a time our eyes adjust to the dark. Yet the risk of a nuclear conflagration has not lessened. It has not happened yet, thank God. But that can give us little comfort, for it only has to happen once. The danger is becoming greater. During the long afternoon it would take for all the missiles and bombs to fall. A World War II every second. More people killed in the first few hours than in all the wars of history put together. The survivors, if any, would live in despair amid the poisoned ruins of a civilization that had committed suicide. Nuclear weapons are an expression of one side of our human character, but there's another side. The same rocket technology that delivers nuclear warheads has also taken us peacefully into space. From that perspective, we see our Earth as it really is, a small and fragile and beautiful blue globe, the only home we have. We see no barriers of race or religion or country. We see the essential unity of our species and our planet. And with faith and common sense, that bright vision will ultimately prevail. From the bottom of my heart, I want to express to you the gratitude I feel. Thank you, fellow citizens, and farewell.
It would truly be a gift if we could all learn from President Carter to lift our vision to seeing ourselves as citizens of the world. Our precious home is in danger, and it is crucially important that we all learn how to preserve and protect it for all of us, our children, and future generations. That's why I'm so proud that Rotary is collaborating with the Carter School to educate and inspire a future generation of peace builders, skilled in how to actually engineer peace and bring our world together beyond all these conflicts to break new ground in building bridges of peace for a better future for all.
Well, so thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Jimmy Carter, for your amazing life and contribution to the world. And thank you, all of you at the Carter School, for carrying on his vision and his mission. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and play a special movie for you, The World is My Country. You'll see that it opens with a little spot about Rotary that played on PBS stations across the country, over 100 PBS stations coast to coast in the U.S. And after you see it, we'd love people's help in getting this movie out around the world. So without further ado, here is The World is My Country.
The World is My Country was made possible by Charlotte Perret, the Lloyd family, Nuri Ranagi and Alan Shorb, Michelle and Bill Polad, Wayne and Laura Lee Bennett, AmillionCopies.info, and over 100 people like you. Additional underwriting provided by CieloLifestyle.mx, EmpathySurplus.com, Nancy and Al Jubitz, Yale Jones, Cinda Collins Arsenault, Laura Turner Seidel, and more outstanding Rotarians saluting Rotary International, uniting 1.2 million people of action in 35,000 clubs, volunteering in their communities and building peace around the world. Rotary.org/world.
Thank you. You are about to hear from an everyday man with an extraordinary life story. A story that may well give us a roadmap to a better future. He was an actor, a song and dance man who leapt off the Broadway stage onto the world stage in 1948, taking on cops, border guards, armies, and whole nations, showing us that we don't have to be awed by their props of power and control. We don't have to accept a world ravaged by war and plunging towards environmental disaster. For 65 years, as a citizen of no nation, only the world, Garry Davis made his own props of freedom, demonstrating that we, the people, can tear down the walls of oppression and write our own story. We can build a world that is constructive for all and destructive to none. As Vermont author Abigail Stone put it, Garry Davis opens the doors of our personal jail cells, hands us the rusty old key, and says, "Don't forget to dance on the way out." So now here he is, the man Buckminster Fuller called the New World Man, Mr. Garry Davis.
I'm very appreciative of the fact that you're here as an audience and I'm here to entertain you, so it's like a temple. You know, it's like a cathedral. All actors feel the same way. And what we get from you, we get that attention. We get that electricity. We get that feeling back, and it feeds us. So what do I need this for? That's it. My real dream was to star in a Broadway show. I dreamt about that from almost day one. And at 19, I got my big break. Well, break, I got in the chorus. I got in the chorus of Let's Face It, a big show on Broadway at 19 years old. Well, we were in Boston, and I went to the producer. I said, I'd like to understudy Danny Kaye. He said, what? You can't. Nobody can do Danny Kaye. I said, well, it's just for the rehearsals. You know, the other understudy needs somebody to read the role. So he thought, and he said, okay. 2 years later, Danny gets laryngitis. So I'm down in the dressing room. Down comes the stage manager, and he says those magic words that every understudy wants to hear. He looks down at me and he says, you're on. First reaction, oh my God, I gotta wash my hair. So, sold out matinee. Here I am in front of an audience at the Imperial Theater in New York on Broadway. Well, but they want Danny Kaye. They don't want me. Can I really carry a Broadway show for 2 hours as the star? Well, here's one of the numbers. Oh, they passed a law. Oh, they passed a law. Oh, they passed a law. Down in Washington, D.C. Chorus behind me. Yes, Lord. Thank you, chorus. In a goldfish bowl, new and shiny, they went eeny, meeny, miny, and cried, hey, young pup, your numb's up. The mailman, give him gown, I got to say, we'll get the key, I had to the flames, say, don't question it, give him gown, I got to say, we'll get the key, I had to the flames, say, give him gown, I got to say, we'll get the key, I had to the flames, say, we'll get the key, the mailman, give him gown, I got to say, we'll get the key, I had to the flames, say, don't report the doctor, say, we'll get the key, I had to the flames, say, Danny got 3 curtain calls. I got 13 for that performance. New York Times wrote an article, Columbia Screen Test afterwards. I was made by that one performance. December 7th, 1941. Kaboom!
We interrupt this broadcast to bring you this important bulletin from the United Press. Flash, Washington. The White House announces Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor.
I'm no longer an actor. I'm a draftee with enemies I never knew I had. I go from the Broadway theater to the European theater and into the 92nd Bomb Group. I wanted to fly, learn how to fly, so I said, well, if I have to go to war, the government's going to teach me to fly. My brother Buddy, he chooses the Navy. While I'm in training, this tin can destroyer is blown to bits at Salerno. That's a shock. It's a shock I hope you never have. Remember, your family gets killed in war. What's my reaction? I wanted revenge. I'm furious at the sailors who killed my brother. My brother, my big brother, my mentor. We were going to write plays, stories, you know. He was a great poet, very talented. We were going to change the world. That was my first reaction, just get these bastards. But something happened. Later, when I'm flying over Germany in a B-17, and we were ordered to bomb Brandenburg. We did, 5 miles up, and then we go home, and then we saw the pictures. And I was horrified at the destruction. So my revenge house disappeared completely. I turned to shame. What was I doing? My brother was killed, and I'm killing brothers and families. Why weren't we arrested for killing people? Why weren't the Germans who killed you arrested? 1946, the war is over. I get another show, Three to Make Ready with Ray Bolger. Remember the guy, Scarecrow? Now, in this show, he plays the GI sad sack. I'm playing the colonel, and then I'm playing the general, and so forth and so on. But off stage, I'm a real sad sack. I mean, my friends used to say, you know, Gary isn't fun anymore. I'm watching newsreels of bombed out Hiroshima, Nagasaki.
Hiroshima, seen from the air after the atomic bomb blast that virtually erased this city of 340,000 people from the earth. As far as the eye can see, stretch scenes of desolation and ruin.
You know, that nuclear war, Einstein said war, if we don't eliminate war, war's going to eliminate us. So I go on a quest to find out how to beat the most irrational enemy of all, war itself. I ask experts, I go to the libraries, I look for books. No one has a clue. I'm thinking to myself, is war inevitable? Then I read a book, incredible book, called The Anatomy of Peace. And it struck me like lightning that humans already have a system for eliminating war. It's too simple. Come on, Gary, you're kidding. No, inside countries with one government, we don't fight wars. How about civil wars? Two governments, two sovereignties. But if everyone accepts one government, no war. I look around New York and I see, you know, ethnic groups all over the place, the same ones that were at war with each other in other countries. Here they're playing chess at Washington Square. Is it human nature to go to war? Why aren't they at war? Conflicts can be resolved, not by blowing up neighborhoods, but in a court of law. Then I read Tom Paine's The Rights of Man. Tom Paine made that famous statement, "My country is the world." So if the world is our country, this is too simple, really. If the world is our country and we claim it, and we raise our allegiance to that level, to the top level, no more fictional borders. That's the key. And therefore, no more wars. Suddenly, it becomes very clear to me. I didn't get arrested for bombing cities because there's no law against it. The national politicians fool us by talking about international law. But treaties are just deals between sovereign nation states, which can be broken, and are, all through history.
There before his cabinet, President Coolidge signed for the United States a treaty designed to outlaw war.
Because there's no police force to enforce them. In other words, very simply, no world law. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. And that, folks, is why we fought World War II. A war between the nations, not between us, the peoples. If we had had world law, we could have eliminated the global lawlessness, the world anarchy that gave rise to Hitler and the Holocaust. And my brother would be alive today.
There never was a war in history easier to prevent by timely action than the one which has just desolated such great areas of the globe. It could have been prevented, in my belief, without the firing of a single shot.
Now, when Kansas and Colorado have a quarrel over the water in the Arkansas River, they don't call out the National Guard in each state and go to war over it. They bring a suit in the Supreme Court of the United States and abide by the decision. There isn't a reason in the world why we cannot do that internationally. It'll be just as easy for nations to get along in a republic of the world as it is for us to get along in the Republic of the United States.
When I finally realized that world law is essential for the very survival of humanity, I knew I had to take action. I was up there making war, bombing cities. Now, I've got to make amends. I got to stop the next war. Can you imagine? You see, I was going through my personal hell. I was like a lot of these guys coming back from Afghanistan and Iraq, you know. You know, you shoot somebody and you're shooting an image of yourself. It's like, as a psychiatrist say, you got a hole in your soul. Can't get out. The last straw for me was the start of the Berlin crisis. I'm in the active reserves. What if I'm called to active duty to bomb Moscow now? Wow. I had to do something. So now, here it goes. I head to Paris. I march into the U.S. Embassy. And I officially give up my exclusive national citizenship. Now you say, this is crazy. I made a statement, though. I made a statement which said, now I'm taking the little bit of sovereignty that I possess, and I say, now I'm placing it up on the top grade, on the top level, okay? And nobody can deny me that, because I'm outside the states anyway. I'm no longer a national citizen, so I can do what I want. I can claim what I want. And that's the day, the same day I did that, I claimed to be a citizen of the world. I walk out of the embassy. Now I'm free of the war system, liberated from national boundaries, waltzing above the entire system of nations, energized by a vision of a world with no borders, no boundaries, no fear. A world in which we are one. And you know what? The world is already one. And world citizenship is not a new idea. Charlie Chaplin out there called himself a citizen of the world. Socrates, Martin Luther King, Gandhi, all the great gurus, masters, and sages call themselves citizens of the world. Well, unfortunately, not my own family. My sister Ginny in Philadelphia opens the Republican National Convention singing the Star-Spangled Banner. And my father's playing, he's got the orchestra for it, when they hear about my citizenship. Wow, what a shock. What a contrast in family, yeah? Now, the first thing the consul says, okay, Mr. Davis, now you've got something that belongs to us. I say, yeah, U.S. passport, thank you very much, give it back. So you take it back. Now you've got no documents. You walk out of that big door on the Champs-Élysées in Paris, and you've re-entered France without documents. This is the lot of millions of people. So what does France do? They say, get out. Get out because you're stateless, you ain't in our book, and if you don't get out, the pokey, go to jail. I said, fine, I'll go to Germany to help rebuild, you know, what I destroyed. But I can't get a visa to Germany without a passport, the same thing. In fact, as a stateless person, no nation will admit me. So where's a world citizen to go? Where? You know, up to the moon? Out into the ocean? There's no other place. So in that moment, something very interesting happens. France declares the Palais de Chaillot to be international territory for 3 months, for the United Nations to hold its General Assembly there. That was the only year that the UN was out of New York. They had nowhere to go because the building was not built on the East River, so they said, let's go to Paris. So I said, my God, here's a piece of world territory right in the middle of Paris. Beautiful, you know, makes my point. So I go to the press the night before, September 10th, make a statement, give it to the AP, the wire services, Reuters, and so forth and so on. Take my pack on my back, go to the Place Trocadero. On midnight, I leave France by going to the territory of the Palais de Chaillot. And I unroll my sleeping bag and go to sleep. Hey, lovely. I'm out of France. Next morning, about 6 a.m., nudge, nudge, nudge. Monsieur, you cannot stay here. It's against the law. And I wake up and out there is against the law for me. I show this gendarme what they call a refus de séjour. They're refusing to let me stay. He looks at it and says, "But you must be out of France by September 11th. I said, "That's right. And I'm out of France. Did you know that France ceded this territory to the United Nations?" He said, "No, but you're in Paris." I said, "Yeah, Paris, but it's not French anymore. It's not France." And I said, if you take me away, if you bring me back to France, you'll be importing an alien, and you can get arrested for that. He really backs off. He needs some orders now. And then the press arrived, and it became a circus. And that made a clamor all over the world, because Europe was still in ruins, and people were so fed up with war. And then I said, well, now that I've got the attention of the United Nations, I'm claiming to be their first citizen. The only guy that they could get to, the press, was the Soviet Undersecretary General. And his statement was very interesting. "Davis is a world baby. States may join, but diapered citizens niet." Anyway, the story went out. Crowds started to gather around me. I had students, I had housewives, I had businessmen.
I remember Garry very well. He was ex-soldier, an American, and he wanted to try to impose the new idea of citizen of the world. And we were, Marchand and I, very, very interested by that. And we stayed with him. We became friends.
People wanted peace, and this seemed to be a breakthrough for them. They didn't know why, but at least one guy had broken through and was talking to the UN directly, and they couldn't get rid of him. It was a modern David and Goliath, kind of one man against the Goliath. I held the ground there in this hectic time for 6 days and nights. On the 6th day, a bunch of postal clerks came out of the palais with sacks on their back and dumped the mail at my feet. And they were from everywhere in the world. From Australia, from India, from Sri Lanka, from all over Africa, all over Europe and so forth. It was amazing. Talk about one world. And what are they saying? They're saying, we're weary of talk. They're saying, we want peace. You are our hope. We are with you in our little village. Continue, how can I sign up as a world citizen? A lot of us said, you're like us. If you can be a world citizen, so can I. So 9/10 of those letters say, we want to be world citizens like you. It was the beginning of a movement. On the 7th day, the UN was fed up. All the politicos all over the place were fed up. So they invade the French Minister of Interior to get this guy off their doorstep. So at 6 a.m. in the morning, the tent is flying over my head. I've got people around, 100 people saying, "Garry, get out, get out." And the gendarmes, 100 gendarmes with their patrol wagons were there. And boy, they got everything out, and me in the patrol wagon, and brought me back into France. Illegally. They should have been arrested. Well, okay, that was the first act. What happened was a very well-known French war hero, Colonel Robert Sarrazac, he organized 24 leading writers to form what they call a Conseil de Solidarité.
Very famous writers, such as Jean-Paul Sartre, and Albert Camus, André Breton, Simone de Beauvoir, and Raymond Queneau, and many others came with us. And little by little, we created a real movement.
Well, with so many wanted to be world citizens, what we did is we opened a registry. The little hotel I stayed in, which is called, ironically, the Hotel des États-Unis, Hotel of the United States, but we took over the whole hotel. The first floor was reception, the second floor was registration, the third floor was media, the fourth floor was Peuple du Monde, which was our newspaper, and the fifth floor was moi, me. Now, in 2 years, We had registered 750,000 people from all over the world. Hey, 700, this is more people than a lot of smaller nations, right? So this was the beginning of a new constituency of citizenry on a global level, something extraordinarily historic and extraordinarily important. Now, since the UN Charter mentions human rights 8 times, they had to define them. So they appointed Ellenor Roosevelt, who was the U.S. delegate to the United Nations, as the chairperson of this Human Rights Committee. But the Soviet bloc said, human rights, no, it's an invasion of our sovereignty. We agree with economic rights, but not human rights. So Ellenor Roosevelt had meetings after meetings after meetings, and my council decided we have to plot a very great big act of political theater.
One day, I remember that very well, in front of that theater with Breton, Camus, many others, and I decided to play a little comedy. And we arrived in the theater, where maybe 20, 25 friends, and it was, I remember very well, during the Soviet representative would deliver a speech.
But the Cold War is right there in that room, nations squabbling like little kids back and forth.
The chair rules the remarks just heard entirely out of order.
So what I did was I got up before anybody could stop me. There were balcony railings there. I leaped over the balcony railings out to the front where everybody could see me, and I shouted,
I interrupt. I interrupt. I interrupt to make a
I interrupt in the name of the people not represented here.
À l'Assemblée générale de l'ONU, Garry Davis, le citoyen du monde qui fit déjà parler de lui au début de la session, en s'installant sur les terrasses du palais de Chaillot.
And Herbert Evatt, he looks up, he sees me. It was like that. Somebody from the people had the floor given by the President of the United Nations. Well, I started. The nations you represent divide us and lead us to the abyss of total war. What we need is one government for one world. And if you won't do it, step aside. And a People's World Assembly will arise from our own ranks to do it, because we can be served by nothing less. Well, I was hustled out, and opposite Sarazak is giving the speech, the same speech, but in French.
Soudaine du délégué soviétique, M. Wyszynski, et les remous provoqués dans l'assistance par cette intervention inattendue.
And then we took over. We had so many people wanting to speak in that balcony, you know, that we interrupted that session for a full hour. That went all over the world.
At a recent sitting of the United Nations General Assembly, there was an astonishing outburst from Mr. Garry Davis, known as World Citizen #1.
I pass the word to the people.
Well, we knew we had to go even bigger. We had to plan a big, big, spectacular show to break the logjam. When that vote came up in the General Assembly, we rented the biggest hall in Paris. It's called the Velodrome d'Hiver. And we rented it on the 3rd of December to hold the meeting on the 9th of December, an impossible task to fill that hall in 5 days. And they put me in a little room, and I was doing my speech, trying to learn it, and the other speakers went up to the platform. Now, when I went on, I was brought up to this huge amphitheater, and I was absolutely stunned by the number of people there. It was 20,000 people. Life magazine did a big spread on this. Then a chant started. Slowly building, Garry Davis, Garry. I mean, I'm used to applause, but this was a shockwave of sound. And you know, my eyes get wide, and you know, my hands rise in the air, my fists clenched. I was taken in, you know, I was taken in by this incredible thrust of power, I began to lose myself, this kind of mass reaction. But mass power is like a drug. For a brief moment, I really gave in to the crowds of adoration. Then, you draw back, fearful of what the very thing we're rebelling against, giving power to one person, is happening. So, I was terrified. And then speaker after speaker, and everybody was restive. Everybody wanted to hear what the president of the United Nations said about making peace. Well, finally it came. And here's one of the things he said. He said, as for me, I would be in full agreement with the ultimate goal of world federation and of world citizenship. The hall erupts in cheers. Then the letter continues. The United Nations organization has not received the general power or the prerogative to make peace. Indeed, the charter itself stipulated that the great powers would make peace, and in the primary function of the United Nations would be to maintain international peace once this has been made. To the public, this was sheer gobbledygook. Who the hell can make peace then if the United Nations can't make peace and admits it? Who is to make peace? The nations can't make peace, they make war. Well, finally the crowd reacts in a fury. Well, a young guy, his eyes really wild, hair streaming. He pushes through our security, jumps onto the speaker's platform, and he appeals to me. We are tired of mere words. You're a man of action. Lead us. We will follow you. Tell us what to do. Young people, and everybody, hey, applause. Hey, I didn't know how to answer that. He was doing what I did at the United Nations. But anyway, I pulled my thoughts together and I began to read my speech. And it was totally inadequate. Totally inadequate. The microphones pick up my words, hurls them out full-blown, from enormous speakers. And I realized we are doing the very same thing I argued against. You understand that? We blather about the horrors of World War and the rights of man, but what does it all mean if it's not followed by deeds? It's all blah, blah, blah. Well, I finish, but boy, I feel totally drained. I return to my little room at the hotel, des États-Unis, listening to the little sad tinkling of the piano downstairs, and pull out the flyer with my picture on it that was given to these 20,000 people. Tear it up. Crawl into bed. But if my reaction was negative, the world's press reaction was exactly the opposite. News of the event echoed throughout the world.
Garry Davis, premier citoyen du monde, s'était élevé à la tribune du Vélodrome d'hiver.
And declared himself the first citizen of the year.
Moi, j'ai choisi.
In Paris, followers of the American Garry Davis, who called himself World Citizen #1, have been demonstrating outside the Chamber of Deputies. It was a sit-down demonstration in favor of world citizenship and other abstract ideas.
2,000 Germans push into Technical University in Berlin to appeal for world citizenship. These Germans, whose country has twice in a generation suffered defeat in aggressive wars, are the latest to join the world citizenship movement, started by a young American, Garry Davis.
Weltbürger auch in Deutschland. Auf den Registrierstellen herrscht Hochbetrieb. Insbesondere im Deutschen Zentralbüro in Hannover drängen sich Menschen aller Bevölkerungsschichten, Berufe und Altersklassen zur Eintragung. Oberstes Ziel der von Garry Davis, dem Weltbürger Nummer 1, in Paris ins Leben gerufenen Bewegung ist, eine Gemeinschaft friedens- und freiheitsliebender Menschen aller Länder und Erdteile zu schaffen.
Now, here it comes. The day after our rally, which was 9th of December, the 10th of December, the vote. The vote on human rights. And you know what it was? It was unanimous. because the Soviet bloc abstained. We'll never know why. But the Soviet bloc for 3 years had been saying, we're going to vote no. But the 9th of December, we took over. We, the people, the world citizens of the world, said, wait a minute, we need our human rights. We need law, world law, backing human rights.
We reached the stage, gentlemen, in which by an enormous vote and without any direct opposition, this assembly has adopted this very important declaration.
Ellenor Roosevelt was very, 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 very happy. She was so elated because now the Declaration of Human Rights was proclaimed as universal.
We stand today at the threshold of a great event, both in the life of the United Nations and in the life of mankind.
5 days later, in her newspaper column, she mentions our interruption, and then she explains that the United Nations is not set up to govern, like Evatt said, and only to give nations a forum. And then she writes something which blew my mind. Bombshell. She writes this in her column. How much better it would be if Mr. Davis, you're not going to believe this, would set up his own governmental organization and start then and there a worldwide international government. Who, me? The wife of the President of the United States saying, Gary, we can't do it. Go ahead, do it. I take that to mean that she's not talking really to me. She's talking to every one of you. She's saying each one of you has to do it. Each one of you has the right, the prerogative, and the responsibility to make peace. Anyway, to go back to my story. France was threatening to kick me out, to expel me. So what Sarrazak does, this colonel, he asks for an audience with the president of France, and he grants it the next day. So we go to the Palais Élysée, we walk in, cameras rolling and so forth. But when he said, okay, I will give you my, what they call bienveillance. Mr. Davis will not be expelled because now he's got the aura of my office. Well, you know, I should have been happy, I should have been joyful and so forth, but instead, you know, I felt I'm caught up in some fantastic, noisy, frenetic, desperate circus. You know, it's like a dream where you know you're dreaming, but you can't wake up. You ever have one of those? Until whatever's out there, you know, devours you or whatever. I was in this dream. I said to my crew, I said, look, you guys go ahead. I have to have a timeout. I'm tired, mentally, spiritually. Sarrazak says, but you are the spark, la porte-parole. You carry the word. I say, listen, you guys are the organizers. You're the famous writers, the big intellectuals. I'm weary. I've done my job. You got a great beginning, 750,000 citizens. You know, I'm hanging on here by the skin of my teeth. I need some rest. So I did take a rest. I decided, since the UN has declared the right to travel, I thought I would resume my efforts to go to Germany to help rebuild. So I hitchhiked to Strasbourg. I approach the Kale Bridge, which is it's on the border, German border. I show the French official my refus de séjour, my orders to leave. He says, eh bien, you may leave. I say, he didn't say good riddance, but so I take one step, and I'm met by a general in his uniform and so forth, and he stops me, and he says, do you have a passport? Do you have a visa to enter Germany? I said, nope, but under Article 13.2 of the Declaration of Human Rights, I have the right to travel to any country. He says, you may go no further. I said, yeah, but I've left France. I just left France. So I turned it back to the consul, the French guy, the immigration. I said, can I get a visa to come back into France? He said, oh, no. I said, well, I'm not in Germany. I'm not in France. I must be on the line between the two countries. You know, I stayed on that line 2 months on the Rhine River. I was rejected by Germany. I couldn't get back to France. I'm freezing now. It's winter time. Esther, a pretty young French girl, came over with her mom, who'd been my au pair.
The press contacted my mother because they'd heard that she was his governess in Philadelphia in 1928 or 29. She said, come along. And I came along.
You know, she brought me a tent, she brought me food, she brought me blankets. And years later, she became my wife. That's another story. Anyway, back on the borderline, when I got freezing cold, she rallied the Alsatian supporters to build a small little hut.
Children were here romping around all the time, playing. And I'm afraid the children stacked that stove a bit too strongly, and it went up in a blaze.
That was a sign for me. I give up now. My very cabin, the place I'm living in, burns down. I got to go back to the USA. First, as an immigrant, I'll have to go back as an immigrant.
This voyage to this part of the world community known as the United States of America is more or less a private visit to my family and friends, during which time I hope to assimilate and evaluate my recent world citizenship experiences. I've been asked whether I intend to regain my American citizenship. Since this step I don't consider would change my state as a human being on the planet Earth, meaning simply my state of consciousness as a world citizen and a member of the world community, I see no necessity for it. I intend to remain stateless.
Do you intend to promote your movement in the United States?
My movement, I would say that there is a community of world citizens rather than a movement. When you say movement and when you say my movement, you imply that I'm a leader. Right. I'm neither a leader nor a representative of world citizens. I'm simply one of the world citizens in the community of world citizens.
But because of my stateless status, I'm detained. Over the years, I've been in 34 prisons. 34 prisons in many countries, not because I committed a crime, but simply because, as happens to many people, they have no documents. And what does the government have to do? It has to hold them. What's a refugee camp except holding people who have not committed any crime? There are millions and millions of people like that all over the world. This is one of the horrors of the nation-state system. Finally, I get into another Broadway show. My heart is not in it. Sadly, I give up Broadway. For me, it's the dark night of my soul. Finally, I get a job in a small machine shop in New Jersey. Harry Jacobson was, you know, a very rough-hewn Viking of a man. Teaches me how to grind metal. And of all things, he also teaches me an ancient wisdom science known as the Brahma Vidya. Harry, this master grinder in the machine shop, was a guru because he studied with an East Indian guru, not a Raja. While I was learning how to grind metal, we had long talks about wisdom itself. It gives you a peace of mind. All the stupid things go out of your mind. Your mind is just almost becomes blank. That sounds bad, but a higher level of rationality or reason or wisdom has now an opening to come in. You get a burst of serenity from the energy from the universe. So what happened? I regained my mission. I regained my mission to take up Ellenor Roosevelt's seemingly preposterous suggestion that I start a government. Wow, but how? Well, I went to see a top constitutional lawyer. This is interesting. He says, Gary, take a look at the 9th Amendment. All rights not specifically enumerated are reserved to the people. Did you know that? Here's a quote from that historic Declaration of Independence. Whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute new government. Sounds astounding, to institute new government. The people institute new government. But do you want to know a great thing about all this? At the global level, as Ellenor Roosevelt happily pointed out, there was no government to alter or abolish, nothing to overthrow, no violence, which is always self-defeating anyway. So there's no nothing out there except a wide open, marvelous opportunity for me to go out and declare it. So I went up to Maine, near where I was born, and told my dad my plan. He said, people don't go around declaring governments, he said. Craziest nonsense I ever heard of. And in Maine, too. Why, they'll laugh you off the platform, that is, if anybody shows up. Well, people did show up. Not many, less than 100. A far cry from the thousands at, in Paris, but it didn't matter. Why? Because my audience wasn't local. It was global. It was you and your grandchildren. So, on September 4th, 1953, I declare that the City Hall of Ellsworth, Maine, a government of, by, and for the people of the world. You say this is crazy, but I did it. So then I went down to set up the administrative agency of the government, which is now called the World Service Authority. And it's in Washington, 5 Thomas Circle. It's functioning right now. This is the international exit visa. Yeah. This is based upon Article 13, Section 2 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This doesn't mean that all governments are going to recognize this. This gives us a tool to claim our right. This is a bureaucratic tool because what is stopping us from leaving is their bureaucratic tool. In other words, the visa of control. Yes. So we say, okay, now we have our tool, we're neutralizing your tool, and we're claiming the right to leave. You see? This is the beginning of a whole new development in human rights.
We have been dying in this house from hunger, from diseases, from getting no shelter.
C'est une organisation religieuse. It was a religious organization qui est défendue dans notre pays, which is forbidden in our country.
So we are asking for help. That's why we are applying for your passport.
My first passport was a little 16-page booklet, number 00001. Well, I was first in line. And I entered India with it, and I met the Prime Minister, Pandit Nehru. And I'm in his office, and I tell him, I am in this country on a world passport. I'm a world citizen. Oh, how jolly, how jolly. Then I presented him with his own world passport. And then he says, this is the passport Gandhi would have carried.
No, I'm a world citizen. That's all we have. Thank you.
Thank you. It is marvelous. It's euphoric. It's euphoric to be standing on the top of the Berlin Wall. The wall which separated humans for 40 years, and now people are climbing up on this side and jumping down on this side, and it's unreal. None of the missiles, none of the F-16s, None of the nuclear weapons. The biggest nation in the world could do nothing. The very government which is in power is helpless, is impotent to protect me.
It's because the world community is lawless that we have something called terrorism. Lawlessness breeds terrorism, and terrorism thrives on lawlessness. But you can't fight lawlessness with lawlessness. You can't go to war against war.
We have to get over this we and they type thinking. We Americans and they Palestinians, and we Jews and they Christians, and we Indians and they Pakistanis. That's all finished. And that's what this means today. That's what I think when I look at this. And now we have to come and create the conditions which allow us and the rest of the people of the world to have peace. Patriotism, yes, patriotism, fine, but a world patriotism. The world's got to be protected. The world's at stake.
See, these people were murdered. If there was a law against killing people, which there is on every level except the global, then it's a crime. Then you go to court.
Everyone has the right everywhere to recognition as a person before the law. That implies world law. Mind-boggling.
Now, does world government scare you? Oh, well, it does me. If it's the same old forces of power, you know, and money controlling our lives from behind closed doors, the top-down theory, the New World Order, you've all heard about that.
But what if we, the people, institute our own government, truly of, by, and for the people of the world?
World law isn't beyond you, it is you. We are world law now. If you take a piece of paper, you say, we agree to, you know that's a legal document. You can take that into any court in the world.
We're already experimenting in making world law, one community at a time. In view of the fact that the town of Burlington declared itself a world city, and in view of that, that the city of Burlington joined over 1,000 cities throughout the world, that we, standing here on global soil, declare this park as world territory.
Would you say that we are now at a point, seeing that we have the World Wide Web and that the whole world is interconnected virtually, where we can stop with countries sectionalizing our planet and just become one united planet under one banner?
That's the name of the game here.
I can't believe you're here. Bless you, bless you. Come on in.
Robert remembered Garry, and he thanked Garry for bringing him into this idea that we could become global citizens.
Robert was one of the great exponents of this idea. He gave his life to it. I think that people are now realizing that it is one world, we're one family, one human family. And either we're going to live in peace as a family, or that's it.
And I understand that the last trip that Robert took, you and he went back to that spot. Tell us about that.
Well, we were there because of the fact that we knew that Garry Davis had slept there.
So we went to the very spot where Garry had the courage to live on the line between these two countries that had fought that awful, awful war. And we allowed ourselves to experience the joy of no guards, no kiosks, of no borders. Now it's a free, open bridge. Strasbourg, where Garry took his stand, became the seat of the European Parliament. And I'm absolutely positive that Garry inspired the European Union founders. And the European Union succeeded in stopping wars between its members. What Garry said worked. Law stopped war, but it didn't go global. There's no world law against war, so wars still rage. And as you see the floods of refugees coming in and these little children being led off the boat, this is a very sad time. You know, the solution isn't to go backwards and to build more walls. It's as Garry said, think outside the box to invent new solutions.
Here in Vermont, we have town hall meetings. Today, with the internet, we can all meet in the same room, the global room. We don't have to give our power away to representatives who become magnets for special interest money. We don't have to be imprisoned by the inventions of the 1700s. We don't need a middleman. What if we invent a governing system in which each of us can participate? Not mob rule, but true collaboration. What if we invent world money? Why not? We humans are an incredibly ingenious species. Why squander our genius on inventing smart bombs to do ourselves in? Why not use our great ingenuity to invent SmartGov, a way we can all interactively and intelligently and heartfully govern our communities, our regions, and our world.
Visionary, you bet, but doesn't every advance start with imagination? When we catch the vision of a people-powered planet, then, in this era of instant communication, we'll be able to evolve the tools and the platforms we need to bring the highest and best wisdom of each individual to the task of governing planet Earth.
Once we tap into the sovereignty of the whole, we can unleash the genius of humanity. End war, end oppression, solve global warming.
Global warming is at the forefront of a lot of people's minds, and change of weather that we've been having, the weather patterns, the flooding, hurricanes. Obviously, human beings have had a devastating impact on our planet. It seems now more so than ever we're at a real tipping point.
I'd like to ask Leo particularly. There's an old movie cliche, you know, the planet is in peril, and it's the 11th hour, and things look really dark, and at the last minute, our hero swoops in and saves the day, saves the world. Who's the hero who's going to save us?
I think there's got to be millions of heroes. That's my answer to that. This is a gigantic worldwide movement that needs to cross cultural boundaries, religious boundaries. It needs to unify all of us. And I think how can you argue with wanting cleaner air, cleaner water? You know, these are fundamental human rights issues at the end of the day. Everything has to come from the will of the people.
So, it requires you to ID yourself as a world citizen. You don't have to give up your local citizenship. You don't have to give up your national citizenship. You just have to add the top layer. When each one of you does it tonight, in this group here, this small group, you're making peace between yourselves. You're saying, I'm peaceful to you, I'm peaceful to you. It's a contract we're making. That can happen overnight. No more war. God, no more war. What a historic sentence that would be. Because it doesn't take a lot of people. It takes people who exercise their sovereignty on that level. I am not a politician, I'm an actor. But to me, hey, we're on stage. All of us. Everybody here is on stage. And the stage is global. Hey, it's our world, folks. And we human beings can do anything we set our minds to. So say it with me. I am a world citizen, and my country is the world.
I am a world citizen, and my country is the world.
I remember my youth very well. I think the Garry's project and Garry's idea are more changed today. I continue to hope and sometimes to dream, because the dream it's a larger part of a human being, and we have to dream because it's the only way to catch the reality is to dream.
World citizen, lift up your voices. Oh, you know we got something to say. All we need is the same directions, heading in one way.
My country is called Earth.
To give us your comments and reactions, or for the full unabridged film, an online Q&A with the director, information on the World Passport, or a free guide to world citizenship, go to worldcitizen1.com.
Wow. This is, I'm so glad that so many of you got to watch this film with us today. We're going to have some exciting panelists, including David Gallup later, who's carrying on Gary's work. We're having Michael Walsh, who is working on creating a digital version of the World Passport associated self-sovereign identity and so on. But before we do that, I'm going to, and then Mary Clark is going to give us her comments about the film and talk about how her husband's role in creating this incredible Rotary collaboration with the Carter School. But before I do that, I want to make a few comments about the film as the director and the creator, and as Gary's friend for over a quarter century of his life, the last quarter century of his life. And first of all, I'm just so honored that we got to tell his story, and I'm just so grateful to Melanie for the incredible job she did in producing this movie with me. Gary said, "We human beings can do anything we set our minds to. We're an incredibly creative species." And he actually said that we have the right to go ahead and institute a government of, by, and for the people of Earth. Well, first that sounds like, wow, how in the world are we going to do that? It's overwhelming. Like for Gary, it was overwhelming until he went through the experience of being empowered by his own inner growth with the guru and so on to realize that we indeed do have that power. He talked about smart gov. That's one of the things I hope we can develop in collaboration with the Carter School, which has an innovative peace technologies division. So let me talk a little bit more about how that would work. Right here in this meeting, right here in this Zoom meeting, I noticed in the chat that we have people from, from South Africa, to Tamia and Cabo Verde. We have from the Netherlands, Ukraine, Ethiopia, Ireland, South Africa, India, Malaga, Lebanon. And in fact, the person from Lebanon mentioned that Charles Malik of Lebanon was one of the authors of the UN Charter. Well, Rotarians played a very big role in creating that UN Charter. It was part of the mission of Rotary. So I think it's fundamental to think about how Rotary and the Carter School could collaborate on taking the next step beyond the United Nations. The United Nations, as people have pointed out, they'll make decisions, the International Court will make decisions, but they're not enforced because the United Nations is just, as Gary said, this is just a deal between countries, and we see national leaders break them at will. And so how do we create law above the nations that divide us? Well, if you look at the basis of law, law is a compact between citizens. Citizens get together and they decide, well, I'll be safer if I have a community around me that we can interact with. So they give some of their sovereignty to that community. Then they can give a piece of their sovereignty from the community up to a city level and up to a regional level. And ultimately, the nation states exist because we gave them a part of our sovereignty. Almost every constitution says it is created by we the people. Well, so if we the people institute world government, Gary calls it smart gov, and he showed an app on your phone that does it. How can we govern our world with an app? Well, okay, take this Zoom meeting we're in right now. And think about it as that geodesic sphere instead of a top-down structure. We're all having an interactive discussion on a topic. We want to pass, we're worried about, this person's worried about pollution in their river, this other person's worried about their gasping for air in their area. We want to pass this, like the Global Clean Air Act, as Gary was pointing out as the example of the film. Well, so synergy means that compromise is I want me and you want another. Well, okay, the voting system, one side wins, one side loses, and it's really a race to the bottom. We see that that's leading us really to have leaders that are moving toward the extinction of life on Earth, as Jimmy Carter warned us so well. we are literally leading to the possible end of life on Earth for environmental, not even possible, likely. If we continue on the current course, we will destroy ourselves by either nuclear war, environmental destruction, or other means are out of control. And inside nations, we've solved so many of those problems. We can solve them when we get together inside. Well, this SmartGov app would be a way to, say we're in this Zoom meeting and we have a dashboard we can call on. So there's people discussing an issue and one side has a really strong and another has a strong feeling. You pop up this dashboard and it gives you these key conflict resolution tools. There are so many groups that have across every divide, Arab, Israeli, no matter which divide, the red states, blue states, whatever, there's groups like Braver Angels, there's other groups that have brought people together on opposite sides of issues. And you find when people get to talk and they have the certain tools where it's not just people shouting, I'm right, you're right, I'm right, you're right. They're rather going to tools that allow us to move into synergy. And synergy is more compromise. I give a little, you give a little. Synergy is in our discussion. We come up with something better than either of us started the meeting with, and we grow into something greater. Well, if we can develop a synergistic system of world governance that's not based on just one side voting or the other side voting, but groups on that geodesic globe model of people just like here in this Zoom meeting, coming to a conclusion with people from opposite sides of the issue. And the more the meetings include people from opposite sides of issues coming together into synergy, the more powerful impact that would have on the global level. Well, you imagine all these global synergy globes, sort of like Zoom meetings all around the world, of people from all over, like we have here, of opposite parts of the world, coming together and creating their image of what kind of future we want. You know, what kind of a world, how would we like to see clean air work? And we create tools so that nobody is left behind. You know, if people say, okay, well, we want to create clean air, but we need to be able to run these factories. Okay, so how do you solve that? You know, we're an incredibly inventive species, and you get people that are not just protesting the factory, but coming together with the factory managers to come up with solutions that make that all work. You know, we can develop an interactive tool where we can govern, and then how do you enforce it? Well, you know, where do these people get their power? All these corporations, all the politicians, they all get their power from us. We're the ones who give it to them. If we have a system that withholds it, you know, if we have our SmartGov app and the world passes a Global Clean Air Act, the citizens of the world, this is not top-down government with military enforcement, because military enforcement is weak. We see that military power fails. The biggest empires in the world have pounded on small countries for decades, and they are not able to beat them because militarism is actually, military power is an oxymoron. It's not powerful. It creates more enemies. It creates more people opposed to you. It doesn't really have power. It may create a temporary power, but then it comes back to bite you. If you have this SmartGov app and you go into a store and you scan a product you want to buy. Oh, this person's a world law violator. Okay, I'm not going to buy this. Oh, this person's, you know, the earth-centric, for instance, a product that's very, they have paper products that are very environmentally sound, made out of plant bases. Okay, great. This one's better. I'll buy this. You know, and if we create new economies, Gary talked about world money. He talked about world money before people started cryptocurrency. Well, you know, a world money is now quite something we could create, and we can create new economic forms attached to this world citizen government. There could be interactive shopping like Amazon, but more for the planet, where you're rated not so much by, you're rated by how sound your product is in serving the environment and helping preserve life on Earth. Anyway, there's a lot that can be think about if we really see ourselves as world citizens. The problems that seem insurmountable and just there's no way out down here at the nation state level become eminently solvable. So I do want to throw it open to questions, but I think I should let the panelists go, both all talk a little bit, and then we'll throw it open to questions from everybody in the audience. Meanwhile, if I didn't mention your country, go ahead and put your country in there. Of course, there's people from the United States as well, all over, putting their names in the chat, and I welcome all of you. But go ahead and put in the chat your country, especially if I didn't mention it. And let's go ahead and first start with David Gallup. David is the president and the attorney who runs the World Citizen Government, which is carrying on the work that Garry Davis. He worked very closely with Garry for decades from very early in his program, and he'll tell you more about that and how he's carrying on the work. Go ahead, David Gallup.
Yeah, thank you, Arthur, and thank you, everyone, for the opportunity to be with you, to speak with you today, and thank you all for being here. I've been with the organization for about 34 years, and I worked with Garry Davis for almost 25 years to continue his mission of a world of peace and justice through world citizenship and world law. And Jimmy Carter mentioned the nuclear threat. He mentioned the stewardship of our planet and protecting the earth. He mentioned universal rights. And Garry, if he were still alive, and I now would say that to fulfill our really not only our duties but and rights, to deal with those issues, we have to deal with them by identifying as world citizens and even governing our world as world citizens, which is what the organization has been doing for many years in promoting and advancing the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And I can tell you I'm working in 3 separate working groups to advance our digital IDs, along with the current World Passport, which anyone can apply for. We also just launched in the last 2 weeks, I don't know if you can see it, but our new version of our ID card, which has QR code and barcode on the back, which it will really help with recognition for individuals, especially for refugees and stateless people. There's a lot of people in vulnerable populations around the world. There's almost 2 billion people who either have no identification or inadequate identification. And of course, we're all world citizens by being born on planet Earth and of human parents. But it's important to identify ourselves as such. So we're filling the gap that is World Service Authority as the administrative branch of the World Citizen Government that Garry founded. We're filling in that gap of lack of identification, especially for people in vulnerable situations. And the 3 working groups that I'm working with, one of them you'll get to hear from in just a moment, but Global Democracy Initiative is working on a service called GLOKey, which is for global collaboration by the people of the planet in decision-making. We're also in a working group from the Earth Constitution Institute, which is working on creating a global voter ID, which would be linked to our World Citizen ID, so we can actually vote on global issues. And then finally, Citizen.win, which is where world citizens will come together to interact and also receive social, educational, and economic services. And the point of identifying ourselves as world citizens and putting this now on not just these physical IDs, but also linking it to digital and to the blockchain, is that it will reduce, we hope, discrimination at frontiers, because these documents will be secure, immutable, unchanging. Of course, we have to make sure that the respect for that data is protected, that there are global regulations to protect that and to protect individuals. I mean, Garry Davis would say that world passports, for example, challenge the nation-state system that tries to divide and conquer us. Because humans have the right to freedom of travel, we don't need documents that restrict our rights, only documents that reaffirm our rights, which is what the World Passport and the World ID and the World Citizen Card that we issue do. So what's really exciting about this new era of blockchain identification beyond even paper or plastic IDs is that we'll be able to identify ourselves not linked to a particular place, but really linked to the fact that we are human beings, we have rights, we have duties as citizens of the world. So I really would just, because I know we only have a short amount of time, I'll just finish my comments just by saying that the potential of the World Passport which has been around for 70 years, has helped so many people in difficult situations, whether it's because they've been undocumented. With this document now, they can get health care, they can go to school, they can interact in their community in ways that they may not have been able to, even economically, just because of having the IDs that the World Citizen government issues. So it certainly can be a really boon and assistance to a great portion of humanity who's been really left out of the system.
Well, thank you so much, David. That was great. And yes, there's so many really both heartbreaking and then heart enriching stories of people who were unable to get medical care they crucially needed because they didn't have the ID they needed and were, they couldn't get their heart operation and so on until they had the world passport, and then they were able to get their passport, or they're able to get an apartment, or they're able to do other things when they have no other ID. So that's terrific. Now, you mentioned Citizen Win. Citizen Win is created by Michael Walsh, who's a social entrepreneur. He works with getting into global incubators to try to develop this specific aspect of how do we create this self-sovereign digital identity. And so let me ask Michael Walsh to just take a couple of minutes to tell you a little bit more about that part of the work you're doing. Go ahead, Michael.
Great. Thank you so much, Arthur and David. I'm so glad to be able to participate and share what we've worked on so far, creating the digital version of the physical world passport, which has been around for 75 years. I think close to 1 million have been issued. And so this is very much an extension of what Garry Davis did, at the Hôtel des États-Unis in Paris when he registered 750,000 people on paper manually. Extraordinarily difficult. So our goal with the digital version of the World Citizen Passport, which you can see I have mine here, and it's a beautiful machine readable document. And think of the task that David has in Washington, D.C., trying to get these physical passports out to, hundreds of thousands, potentially, up to 1 billion people in the world have no identity documents whatsoever. So this is a travesty of world justice. It's a travesty of human rights, not be able to prove who you are. So our goal is to be able to create a system on blockchain or even post-blockchain technology where, if you remember one thing about all this, think of a decentralized social network that is run by all the participants. So it's not a centralized social network like you have with LinkedIn, like you have with Facebook or Instagram, which all the data, all the information runs through their servers and their server farms, which they have all over the world at extraordinary expense. So long story short, we have in our hands the software technology exists today where we can create such a network, and people volunteer to do background processing on the background of their devices and can earn crypto for doing so. And so it's a self-perpetuating system where we could have a full-size, a global citizen network which runs itself on people's devices. So we would never need a single server farm, which is extraordinarily more energy efficient. And so I would conclude by, I love what Arthur said about eco-wise purchases. If we have this full citizen network, we can do peer-to-peer smart contracts, which is a feature of Ethereum, which is more developed than Bitcoin technology. So you could have a system of peer-to-peer contracts, citizen to citizen, saying, I stand for this, I stand for world peace, and so on and so forth. And they can trickle down to the things that you buy, your own supply chain. How can I help the world environment by buy the most ecological and so on. So yeah, that's where we are right now, and we're looking to get into an incubator in order to expand our technological foundation to build this.
Thank you so much, Michael. That was terrific. And I do want to get to questions, and we're running very short of time. But Mary, can you just perhaps say a few words and maybe keep it a little bit abbreviated, because I hope people will stay on after 10:30, if people can stay on, but the panelists here will stay on as long as you want to answer questions, but we are almost toward the end of that hour. So Mary, go ahead.
I want to go back to what President Urchik said about Rotary and Rotary's long role in peace. I think now is such an important time in the world to be a Rotarian and for Rotarians to really step up and use all the tools that they have, which include representatives at the United Nations based on the early involvement in its formation, peace centers with fellows funded by Rotarians and a fellowship network, and there's training that's based on research by the Institute for Economics and Peace, looking at what makes a country more effectively a peaceful country. There's Rotary Action Group for Peace. There are inter-country committees that work together on projects, Rotarians with Rotarians, and the newest and most of most concern to me is the Rotary Carter Collaboration for Peace, which has been mentioned several times over this week and in this presentation. My late husband, David Fishman, was really inspired by the network of Rotary, but he wanted to see Rotarians do more. And he saw the Carter School with its action orientation and its world-class skills and expertise as the institution that could help Rotarians, clubs, and Rotary International, and all these other entities of Rotary take that extra step to scale up, to make their successful programs reach more people and have a greater impact. And so sadly, we lost him in 1993, but we forged ahead with this collaboration with a lot of exciting projects coming up. And I'll just close with the incoming Rotary president's message is unite for good. And I would add to that, let's focus and unite for peace. Rotarians work together with other organizations. Let us join together in the spirit of Garry Davis, late President Carter, my late husband, and everyone here who is a dedicated peacemaker to really move the world into a more peaceful situation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mary. That was terrific. All right, so now please raise your digital hand if you have a question or a comment. We're so thrilled to have so many people here getting to watch this movie. Go ahead, anybody who wants to make a comment, you're now able, I think, to go ahead and unmute yourself. If you, I don't see a digital hand raised. Does anybody have a question or comment? I think Quanta may. Quanta, do you have a comment or question?
Yes, I have a proposal.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would like to show this movie and make it maybe like a quarterly thing, and I will help you to promote it as much as possible. I promise you that. It's the first time I've seen it. Beautiful, wonderful.
Wow, excellent. Thank you so much, Quanta. I appreciate that. And now Sala Sweet from the Rotary E-Club of World Peace. Go right ahead, Sala.
Yes. Is the World Passport recognized in our country? And if it is, can we let immigrants know that that is something that they can use to help them?
Yeah, the World Passport has been recognized by about 97% of all countries, including, if you mean our country, not meaning the world, but our country maybe meaning United States, then yes, U.S. has recognized it on a case-by-case basis. Not always, though, and you may come across, or an individual using it might come across a border agent or an immigration agent who does not want to accept it or thinks that it's not valid, even though it is legally valid and the government has no law against it. But you might come across another border agent or an official who says, yes, I completely support the ideology of world citizenship behind that and accepts it. We do have a legal advocacy team that's staffed by student lawyers who I oversee as their supervising attorney to work on cases where the World Passport is rejected or refused. We also work on cases to help refugees and stateless persons who are suffering, who are not just here in the United States, but in other parts of the world where we write free pro bono legal briefs to support their right to stay where they are if they found a safe haven, or to find a new place to live if they need to flee to save their lives. So that's one of the advocacy works that we do for free.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me just add to that many of the world stamps in the world passport were before 9/11. It's gotten much more difficult to travel internationally, even with national passports. It gets to be very, very difficult. Any passport can be refused. And so it's definitely not something you can count on as a travel document. But Melanie, my producer on this, had an experience where she went through one border and the guard looked at the world passport. Oh, is this the passport we're not supposed to stamp? And she did her own act of world citizenship. She stamped it. So yes, go ahead. Who has another question? Any other questions or comments or thoughts? Oh, and I see, here we go. Okay, Sutithi.
Yes. Yeah, a very good morning, good evening, good afternoon to all the stalwarts. And I'm Shutithi, and I'm from Rotary International District 3291. And what a wonderful evening. I would say that you have shown us a very powerful film. First of all, I would like to talk about that. The film has so many facets of peace, and the most incredible part which I felt, which really struck me, was he never gave up. He knew that the fight is on, and he was so, the conviction, the belief, which helped him to get through. And still, it's very inspiring to see such initiatives, the kind of personalities, they give us so much of inspiration. So that was really incredible. And also, because I was a student of international human rights law, because I used to live in UK and I used to study at University of Essex, and my specialization was peace initiative as well as women's rights and child rights. So we used to have UN parliaments, in our college. So it reminded me of my days when I saw the sessions when the film was being showcased. And it was really nice, very powerful, with a very strong message that has been set out to the world. And it is very, very encouraging and inspiring for me. And thank you to Arthur Sir and Melanie for introducing us to David and Michael and Marie Claire for sharing their thoughts and for enlightening us, because these kind of meetings also give us some perspectives. So many things are happening all across the world with so many things, but we are not informed. We don't know. But these meetings, gives us it's a kind of platform which connects us, which tells us so much of information sharing happens, and so that we can also inform others about what's happening. So I just would like to end with a comment. I'm a little poetic in a sense that I have been, I always, one quote which has inspired me throughout my life has been by John Lebanon. And he said that you may say that I am a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. And someday you will join me and the world will live as one. So I really believe this from the core of my heart. And today I just saw that live through the film, through the discussion. And I think peace is possible. It is very much possible. And we need to have the right intentions, good intentions. I think struggles will come, ups and downs will come in our life, but we cannot give up just because the struggles are there. It is to make us strong. And so thank you so much for giving this beautiful evening, for gifting me this beautiful evening. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful comments. And yes, John Lennon dared to imagine there's no countries, nothing to kill or die for. Wow, that was way ahead of his time. And I think the time has come for us all to start imagining that. Now I'd like to recognize Barbara Ledger, who is doing phenomenal programs with peace education with kids in Lebanon. In Ukraine.
Not yet.
In Ukraine. And so let me go ahead and invite you to give your comment or question.
Thank you so much, Arthur and Melanie and Mary and David and and Michael, everyone who was part of this evening. I am so inspired, and what I take away from this is the importance of community, and what I hear from Mary and why I joined Rotary is that I absolutely know that in a world where there's not so much trust in the institutions that we've heretofore created, Rotary, Rotary is in almost every country in the world and almost every city in each of those countries. And I joined because of some Wesley Cadell, who's right here. He came today. Thank you, because I invited him. I joined because this man and David Wick said, you've got to be in Rotary because you're working in Ukraine, you're in education, you're doing peace work with children, you join Rotary. And so I did, and I had no idea. And now I see that Rotary is maybe the most trustworthy organization in the world. And, the United Nations, my mission in life, that when I first got clear was about 45 years ago, it was to be part of creating the new United Nations. And now, and I'm doing that, but now I call it the unity of nations, because even the United Nations is caught up in the us and them in the world now. And it's a unity of nations that we need. And what I bring to the children is what you brought to us today. You brought to us the importance of a community of people who care about something, and a belief in what seems impossible, but it isn't, because anything is possible when we align with it. And so the four-way test of Rotary is a foundation that anyone in the world would vote for. It's like the golden rule. It's we can and we are. And I'm in the ICC with Ukraine. I'm the secretary now, and Rotary is just filling my life. And what you've done yesterday or 2 days ago with Bully Proof, and what you're doing with this, Arthur, it's just, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to be in this circle and to have and to feel this connection that we can move forward together.
Well,
I'm just moved to tears, really.
Thank you so much. And I'm moved by your comments as well. And I think that's crucial that we carry that on. Who else has a question or comment? I know we are past the end of our hour, but we'd be glad to stay on and talk further if someone else wants to make a comment or has a question. But yeah, I really do relish what you said, and I think that it's so important to be helping to move Rotary in this direction, to use that incredible network around the world to open this. Now, by the way, you mentioned the program we had 2 days ago on bully proofing and urban violence, and how the four-way test, it makes it impossible to bully. National leaders couldn't bully if they followed the four-way test, or elementary school kids, national leaders, none of them. It's all the same idea of bullying, and there is a replay of that coming up. If you go to theworldismycountry.com and just go to worldismycountry.com, the name of the movie, and just click on the podcast button there. You'll get to sign up. You'll see the replays of the previous programs we've had with the Carter School and other wonderful things that are coming up, and you'll be able to get on the list to hear about future wonderful events. So please do go to the name of the movie, theworldismycountry.com, and click on that podcast button to say get Zoom link, and you'll be informed and get a Zoom link for all of the upcoming wonderful meetings we have, including I briefly mentioned World Centric, and in May we'll be having the founder of the World Centric company, which puts out all biodegradable, but strong, and because they're plant-based coverings and so on, cups, plates, all kinds of materials, so people don't use styrofoam and plastic and all that. So everything from utensils to everything else can be fully biodegradable and compostable. So tune in for his program, and when you sign up there on the people on the worldismycountry.com, you'll get the notice of that meeting. I also invite you to go to the mega meeting.com, where you can get replays of other mega meetings with almost all the Rotary International presidents that we've had on it. But they didn't record them at first, but some of them are recorded and available there. And you can also sign up, of course, with the Carter School, and they'll be posting the video of this program as well. Therefore, I want to invite everybody, if anybody objects to being in the video, I don't think any of the people who wrote questions did, but if you do, let me know. That can be edited out, but otherwise we will be posting this for everyone to see. So, well, let me officially thank everybody for an amazing opportunity to be in this program. Thank the other guests. Thanks to Stephanie Urchik for giving us the introduction for both of our meetings with the Carter School. And I see more comments coming in the text. If you don't know how to save the chat, go to the chat window, and at least on a PC, there's a little 3 buttons in the top where you click of the chat window, where you click Save Chat, and then it'll show you can click to show it on your computer. There are a lot of fascinating things in the chat as well. Okay. Well, we'll officially close the meeting, but I'll stay on a little while if anybody wants to ask any other questions in a little smaller group. But all of you who have other things to do, you're welcome to take off. And thank you for being part of a wonderful program. Our regular People Powered Planet podcasts are every Wednesday at well, it would be 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 Eastern, and you have to look at your other time zones around the world. Isn't it great that we all live in so many different time zones and we can be all together in one meeting? What an amazing world. Okay, thank you, everybody. Peace, and carry on.
I'm so delighted that the Carter School and Rotary have empowered us to work together in such wonderful ways.
I just wanted to mention to the people who are still on, you can go on to eBay, and for a good price, you can get several of Garry Davis's books. Like this one is Passport to Freedom, and he has a couple others. And then there's Jean-Paul Sartre has the Social Contract, the book. So he was a visionary for the sovereignty of the individual so many, literally centuries ago. So, and then one more, this refers to what Arthur was talking about for wise eco purchases. The Better World Handbook by Ellis Jones is fantastic, where they've rated literally over 100,000 products for how good a supply chain they have, how eco-friendly they are. So there's all these tools that we have to deploy, but you can find these books for yourself on eBay usually.
Yes, now, and Gary just David Gallup just posted Gary's books also available at World Citizen Gov. You can take that from the chat. And I also want to just mention briefly that Gary's book, My Country is the World, is basically the inspiration for this movie. And there's so much more in that book than we can begin to put in the movie. The movie is just a small, tiny snapshot of it. So please do get back Gary's book. The current edition is called My Country is the World. Michael, I see holding up one of the very first editions, which was called, like our movie, The World is My Country. And now Mary has a comment.
I just wanted to say that people can find more information about the Rotary Carter Collaboration for Peace simply by Googling Rotary Carter Collaboration for Peace, to go to the website and engage, express your interest in being involved, see the exciting activities that are going on with Cyprus, in Sri Lanka, and in nearby Baltimore.
Thank you, Mary. That's very important and a great way to close. So, okay. Well, thank you, everybody. Have a terrific time at the rest of the events with the Carter School. And we will see you sometime on our other podcast or program.
Thank you, Arthur.
Peace and namaste.
Thank you.